Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. Kieran here, and I'm joined today by Nick.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about daily trainers. Before we get into that, first thing to do is answer the question, what is a daily trainer? What are we talking about here in this video? Nick, you're going to hit us with the explanation.
Yeah, so basically this is quite a nebulous term. It can mean a lot of things, and means things to different things to different people. But basically, you're looking at a shoe. Maybe if you're only going to buy one shoe, one running shoe, this would be the shoe you'd buy. It can handle all your training. Some people it will also be their racing shoe. It might be a daily trainer that's also a racer, but for me, and I think for you as well, like it's more just a shoe that you could use for all your training. So what that will entail depends very much on the kind of runner you are. Do you want a lot of cushioning? Do you not want any cushioning? Are you doing lots of mileage? Are you running marathons? Are you running 5Ks? We're going to talk all about that in our own personal picks. But yeah, daily trainer is a shoe you use kind of every day for your running.
Versatile.
Versatile.
Key word, yeah, versatile being the main word.
Do it all rounder, all these terms we use.
It goes slow, it can go fast, but I think crucially as well, it's a shoe that when you look down in a pile of shoes, regardless of what you're training, you want to put that shoe on. It's definitely one that you're drawn to a lot, right, in most of your training miles. It's
the kind of shoe you're actually going to love the most. You might have a racing shoe that you're very fond of, it brings you PBs, but actually a daily trainer is a shoe that you really love. You know, it's the one you've done 500, 600 miles in, it's etched itself onto your soul, you don't want to replace it. There are going to be 5 run testers we're going to talk to in this video, and we're going to say what a daily trainer means to us, and then give our 2 favourite picks. So that way you can see how it differs from runner to runner, because we all kind of have different goals. And then we're going to whip through a load of other shoes we didn't mention, but we think are quite good. But you know, I want to throw them a little bit of credit, but they haven't made our personal top picks.
So let's kick off with Nick then. Nick, first up, tell us what a daily trainer means to a 2:29 marathon runner.
So for me, I look for a shoe that is really versatile, and I tilt it towards the speed end of things. I think it's fair to say. I probably do varies from about 70 to about 100k weeks, kind of topping out during marathon training. Most of my runs, very few of my runs are flat out recovery slow. So even then, you know, a lot of them are progression runs where I start easy and I finish it. I want a shoe that's light enough, speedy enough that can handle that comfortably. And I think there are so many really good shoes out there now that are comfortable while still being light and speedy. I don't feel the need for a really big, chunky cushion shoe as my daily trainer. I've got kind of, you know, fairly lightweight, speedy options probably. But I do not tend to race in them, although the shoe I have picked I think is good enough to race in, and I have raced in it.
Okay.
What is that shoe?
Yeah, what is that shoe? Let's pick up the first one.
It's the Saucony Endorphin Speed. This is the 2. The 1 is just as good. I used the 1 for about 500 or 600 kilometers last year. This shoe I've already put, I think, only about 50 on so far, but it's pretty much the same shoe. It just feels a little bit livelier and softer because it's newer than the previous one.
And what is it about this shoe in particular that makes it your daily trainer?
This is basically, I think, the best do-it-all shoe out there. And I mean that as a genuine do-it-all shoe, in that you can race in this. It's got a nylon plate in the sole, so not a carbon plate. To me, that makes it less stiffer and harsh than the Endorphin Pro, which has a carbon plate. I love the Endorphin Pro, and I could actually use that for quite a lot of training as well, but I found this was more comfortable just to use for those occasional, like, real plods I do in it. It's just perfect for all those runs where you're running at any kind of pace, and then you're like, oh, actually, I might want to kick it up now. You can always do it in the shoe, and it has actually got the flat-out speed to race in. I have done a 5k race in the shoe, and then later that same day I took it out for an hour easy run, and that's the kind of thing you can do in the shoe. It's just supremely versatile, comfortable, quick, durable, I think. Like, done 6k in it, didn't lose any performance.
One thing about this shoe, I think, and you look for in a daily trainer, or I do anyway, is that, again, you sort of talk about step-in comfort, but there's enough padding and cushioning, but it's not overdone. It's got quite a nice balance between sort of having speed, but also feeling like you could go and do a really slow, sort of long plod 13 miles in it quite happily. Yeah,
I think it's definitely kind of shoe that actually a lot of faster shoes could learn from, in that you can have this amount of padding on a shoe, it will protect your heel and it will not slow you down. I think the performance of this is so close to a carbon plate shoe, and that's, you know, mostly just because it hasn't got a carbon plate. And actually a little bit more comfort means it's much more versatile, and yeah, I love it for everything. It's my top pick last year, it's my top pick this year. I really don't see another shoe coming and blowing it out of the water anytime soon.
Okay, brilliant. So, what's your number 2?
So this is my highly commended, and that's the Hoka Mach 4, and there's a few reasons why I've got this in there. This is really comfortable. It's got a lovely rocker roll thing, really smooth, comfortable. Like, I did a 20 miler in the shoe quite quick, and it's just really lightweight and just ate up those miles. Like, I've never felt like, even like the speed, I might feel a bit more peppy in it, a bit faster in it, and it certainly is a quicker shoe, but this just, when you're going at like a fast pace, but maybe not actually a full race pace, it just eats it up, and it can do it all day long, and it's probably even more comfortable for easy miles, and is a bit cheaper than the Endorphin Speed as well. Literally the only concern I have with this shoe is probably durability, because it's got one of those kind of exposed foam outsoles, which isn't great in a daily trainer, but I think I'm kind of more like towards 150k in this, and I haven't seen terrible amounts of wear. I think it would get to 600k-ish probably.
That exposed outsole is a thing with Hoka, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, guys, put a little bit on. Just put a little, like a thin little, give us a wafer thin coating of outsole rubber, and most of these shoes will be brilliant.
Look at that, like that's nothing. It's just around that, and actually amazing how well it grips. And
we'll take the grams. We'll take the extra grams. It's fine. Just give us a little more life in the shoes.
Exactly. It's not a racer. Chuck a bit more in it. But yeah. So I really think this is a lovely shoe, really comfy, and a shoe. When I get a moment this year, basically the plan is, because I like to do at least one long-term review a year, this is number one in line to go and do another 400k, 500k in, just because at the moment there's been too many releases, I haven't had a chance to, but this is probably my favourite new shoe of 2021, just because the Endorphin speed is essentially the same as last year, but that's still my top pick, but this is the most enjoyable new shoe, I think.
So highly commended is the
Hoka One One Mach 4. Next up, we've got Kieran. So Kieran, start off with, what does a daily trainer mean to you?
I mean, like you, I need a shoe that's going to be able to cover those kind of slower runs right up to the kind of fast runs. I'm not running and training, I guess, at the same paces consistently as you will at those top paces. So some of my mileage will be very, very low and slow.
Yeah.
So I'm also looking for something really that can handle going out and plodding around, keeping me at a low heart rate zone that can tick along like that. I want a shoe that's basically going to be definite comfort, guaranteed, you know, whether I'm going fast, whether I'm going slow, but it's got to be a shoe that when I look down, I want to step into it, you know. And I think sometimes I will put on a shoe to go and do sort of faster paced intervals that might be less comfortable, and I'll basically tough it out for that session. But for a shoe that's going to have this kind of do it all daily trainer, I want something that's going to be able to span those different paces, and I know that I'm going to get comfort from start to finish.
Yeah.
I don't like anything that's too sloppy. So I know some people might go for sort of more heavily cushioned shoes. I quite like something that rides a little bit firmer.
Okay.
And I'll err on that side rather than something that's kind of squidgy and, you know, I guess in that sense, something I'm thinking about a Nova Blast here that has that kind of very high kind of squish and response.
Yeah.
That might be sort of a bit too squishy for me. So I look for something that's got a little bit more firmness. I basically like my legs to do a bit more work when I'm training. Like, I know that sounds nuts, but I like to feel like I'm doing a bit more of the work.
And it's fair to say if you are a lot of those long and slow miles, it's very rare you'll just be on tarmac the whole run. So you probably need a shoe with a bit of grip kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I tend to run quite a lot I live in a big sort of national park which is a forest. I've got lots of kind of compacted sort of gravel trails, which is where I'll do a lot of it, or I run along river towpaths. And so I look for something that's going to be able to cross over very easily between tarmac and those trails, and I really like something that's comfortable on those trails, but then when you get back onto the tarmac you feel that kind of pep when it goes.
Yeah.
And that's really nice if you're doing a long training run, that then when you step back onto the tarmac you get that extra little bit of boost. It's sort of, I like that little kick that you get.
Fair enough. Well, let's go in the shoe. I mean, you've lifted it up, you might have had a glimpse of that in the camera there.
Right.
Spoilers.
I've given it away already.
And what is the shoe?
So my top pick, it was a hard one to choose. I've got a lot of shoes that I really like, but this is the Saucony Ride 14.
Yeah.
I love the 13. And this is definitely my kind of top daily trainer of the moment. One of the reasons being, it kind of for me sort of straddles sort of the balance between being light and agile, enough cushioning and protection and comfort with enough padding, but without being heavy and over cushioned, over kind of protective on that front. I think it's firmer, but it's not too firm.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of treading that line between offering enough cushion to be out in it for 3 hours, but also being firm enough for me. When I clip up the pace, I quite like a firmness underfoot that's working, and it rides that balance really nicely. Yeah, it's nimble, it's agile, it's not too squashed, too kind of squishy, and
yeah. You like it,
and
basically.
I like it basically. I mean, I think the other thing is, there is quite a sort of tight mesh upper, but it's flexible enough. There's enough room in the toe box for me. I just find it's an easy one to put on. There's enough response, and that kind of balance between sort of weight and response and cushioning sort of sits nicely for me. It's
quite a traditional shoe, but it's really kind of nailed every part of that, I guess. I know the Ride 13 is very similar. You ran a trail marathon in that. Would you say there's really any difference between the 13 and 14 if people were looking at them online?
I didn't find too much difference, actually. I think it's pretty much
both great shoes.
Both great shoes. I've enjoyed them both. The one thing I will say, if you like, I always say this in the videos, but if you like that kind of real kind of squish and response, I don't get that so much here.
No, it's got quite a traditional ride, I'd say, which I think, which is, it's nice for a lot of people. It is a Saucony Power Run foam, but it's not the PB foam you're getting in the Endorphin Speed and Pro, which is a bit more kind of modern super foamy. This is much more traditional ride, which, for daily trainer is, I think, something that a lot of people might want.
The other thing I think, because I'm crossing over between tarmac and the trails, I think durability is important for me in a daily trainer as well. You're going to put a lot of distance in it, and actually from what I've done already in these and in the Ride 13s, and these are very similar, durability has been a strong point for these shoes as well. They're basically going nowhere, but they're really well built in terms of uppers, and I feel like this is a shoe that will probably last me a year.
Brilliant. And then, if that's number one, what are you giving the highly commended badge?
Highly commended. This is a really tough choice for me. Yeah, I'm not allowed to mention other shoes. Nick's made.
Kieran tried to pick about 5 shoes, and he knew he was cheating, and that's going in the section later. There'll be more shoes you like later, but for now, you only allowed 1.
So when I left the house this morning, I chose between 2 shoes, and it's this one. So
Okay.
this is the Under Armour Velociti Wind.
Yeah.
It's a shoe that definitely runs firmer than the Saucony Ride 14. I think that's why it's become my highly commended rather than my top pick.
Yeah.
Because I love a firm ride,
Yeah.
but actually I think when you're going a little bit further into the distance, it might be too firm for some people. I think over sort of those longer sort of 17, 18 mile runs, maybe in training it's a little bit too much for me. But actually, again, this is at the lighter end of those daily trainer shoes. It's very much at the firmer end.
Yeah.
But I just love the way it ticks over on the tarmac. I love that kind of, it lifts so quickly off the ground, I think, on the lightness. Again, I think sort of uppers are really comfortable. It's got great step-in comfort. I love the, again, they haven't scrimped on the cushioning and the padding and the comfort in the overall kind of step-in feel. I think this flow foam.
Flow? What is flow foam?
I wish I knew what it was. We've been trying to work out what actually goes into the flow foam. But the flow foam, I think this is the best kind of midsole that I've had on an Under Armour shoe.
Yeah, I agree on that.
To date. It has got response in it. It isn't, you can see, like, it doesn't squish like an Overblast or whatever, like those shoes, and that's something that I look for. But it does give you good propulsion, good response, I think.
Yeah, the only thing to say is a bit like my other second choice. It's got an exposed, so this probably wouldn't one you'd be using trails. This is more your city daily trainer, I guess.
Yeah, I tend to use this more on the roads, basically, on the tarmacs and on the pavement.
One other thing we should mention, this is a connected shoe. Do you use those stats at all? Is it just a nice bonus for you, or do you never look at them? You never look at them. We'll move on. Next up, we have Laura, who is all new. Laura, please can you tell us a bit about your running?
I'm Laura. I've been running, I started as a complete beginner back in 2008 when running shoes were a lot uglier than they are now. And I built up to running marathons. I've done 20 marathons now, I include 2 ultras in that. And now I coach beginners. I coach people from beginners through to marathon runners.
So a whole load of running, right up to kind of big dog distances. I guess then it'd be really interesting to know what kind of a daily trainer means to you. Are you often training for events, or kind of what do you get up to regularly?
I am supposed to be training for Manchester Marathon at the moment, which is why I did go out and buy a new pair of one of my favourite picks. I like marathons. They're the only thing that I properly train for, maybe those and half marathons. Everything else is a bit have a go if I'm feeling fit. Comfortable shoes that can go quite a few miles. That's what I like.
So with that in mind, what is your top pick when it comes to daily trainers?
My top pick is the Brooks Adrenaline. I'm currently running in the Adrenaline GTS 21. They were actually my first ever pair of running shoes back in 2008. I had no idea about running, and I went to the shop and I said, I need to get some running shoes, because I'd started in like Converse or something, and unsurprisingly got shin splints. So I was like, okay, I've got to go get some proper shoes. So I went off and they gave me these Brooks Adrenaline, and they were so ugly. They looked like I had a fridge on each foot. But over the years, they've got a lot better. And look at this. This is quite nice, isn't it? This has seen me through, not this exact one, but this shoe has seen me through quite a lot of miles over the years and through a few marathons. And certainly training for the marathons. Not necessarily taken them to the event themselves, but training for the marathons.
So obviously there's been quite a few generations of the GTS, and if we're up at 21, have you noticed a huge change in them apart from the looks? Have you noticed a change much in the way of foams, features, or are you finding it quite a reliable shoe that sticks to the same kind of principles each year?
They're pretty reliable, and I think the longevity of the shoe is that it hasn't changed too much over the years. When a shoe kind of suddenly it's a completely different shoe and everyone's like, oh no, because even if it is still a good shoe, the people that have been using it for a decade, suddenly it's not the same one that they were looking for. And I've stayed with this, so I think it's pretty similar. They introduced these guide rails a few models ago. They're good. They keep your foot a little bit more if you're somebody who tends to do that a bit too much like me. They keep you a bit more straight. They've probably become a bit more flexible over the years, if anything, but mainly it's about the look for me as vastly improved. And you've got this one-piece upper now. I think, God, they must have been double the weight just from the amount of stitching from all the different bits that were on the upper on those first couple of pairs that I had.
All right, fantastic. So Brooks Adrenaline, number one. What is your second pick? You're highly commended for daily trainers.
My second pick is a New Balance Hierro. This is the version 6. Hierro, however you want to say it. This is it. It's a trail shoe. It's you see a similarity, won't you, between me running in Brooks Adrenaline and me liking this trail shoe that's got a nice squishy foam sole. It's nice and comfortable. It's nice and secure around the ankle there. It keeps my foot strapped in and off I go. Now, I don't run on massively technical trails. I live in North London. I have a nice trail near me that's a disused railway line that's turned into a nature reserve, but it's light trail. So this is perfect for it because I've got like a mile to get there. I've got to navigate a few paths and go across a park. And I heard this phrase, which was door to trail. And I think that would describe this for me. I can go along the road for a couple of miles and it still feels nice and comfy. The trail shoes that you feel a bit like you're ice skating as you go on pavements or things. It's not like that. It's nice and grippy on the pavement and gives you that light grip when you're on light trail.
Oh, actually, I used to live in that area. I know that railway line. It can get a little bit sloppy in the winter, but I guess it's something that the Hierro, whatever you call it, can handle kind of pretty much any conditions on that kind of trail.
Yeah, like if it was really squelchy, it's I don't think it's up to much of that. But yeah, it's never going to be that muddy along there, and I think it's a really nice design, isn't it? I mean, I know I should be talking more about the technical details of these shoes, but look at that. That is a beautiful shoe, isn't it? It's particularly for a trail shoe. And there's two colours in the women's. There's this one and there's like a brown, which sounds horrible, isn't it? But if you see it, it's actually really nice. And I think they are, it's been quite clever there because most trail shoes are going to end up brown anyway. So start with a nice looking brown one and your quid's in.
That's fantastic. I think it's really nice to have a trail shoe option in there. Like I said, it's really nice to try and mix up your runs, especially if you are. When I was kind of more central in London, I was always trying to get onto those parks and those kind of lines. So having a shoe that can handle that is always a great bonus, I think.
Also, I went away to visit my in-laws a few weeks ago, and I could only I was staying right near this really nice trail that's about a mile long, and then it goes on to another bit. But I could only take one shoe, and I did take the New Balance shoe, and I did a couple of miles on pavements and running on the trail, and it was fine for both, so it wasn't really much of a compromise.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your picks, Laura. I hope to see you a lot more on the channel with lots more, I think, some Brooks Adrenaline chat coming up.
Yeah, fully loving on the Brooks Adrenaline in another video.
Okay, next up we have Tom. So Tom, can you briefly explain firstly what kind of a daily trainer means to you?
Well, my daily training is pretty much the bulk of what I do because I don't have any really strict training plan or anything like that. So my daily trainers have got to do a lot of stuff really because I don't have... When I go out running in the evening, I might be going to do a fast run or a slow run. I don't tend to know until I'm actually doing it. So I really look for something versatile that can just tick a load of boxes really.
Fair enough. Sounds great. And then, but on that basis, what is your top pick for the kind of the best daily trainer?
Okay, so my top pick is an interesting one. It's been my favourite for a long time now. It's the New Balance FuelCell TC.
Very nice. So I'm a big fan of this shoe as well. We've got a review up on the channel. What really makes it stand out for you then?
Ever since I wore it for the first time, I think this was probably the first proper plated shoe that I'd ever used. And it was a plated shoe designed for daily training, and I just loved it from the first time I stepped into it. I just felt like I could run fast in it, but it doesn't feel like a Vaporfly. It doesn't feel like it's designed for just running quickly. You can have a perfectly enjoyable slow run in this, and it feels comfortable, it feels cushioned, it feels nice. But if you wanted to, you could probably race in this as well. So it's perfect for me if I'm going out for one of my runs and I can just, decide halfway through a 10k that, I'm actually doing quite well. I'm going to take up the pace and try and hit some fast times now.
Nice. Now, I really like the shoe as well. The only problem I had with it sometimes was it's really high stack and quite soft. Sometimes I had a little bit of instability. I guess that's just not something you've had a problem with at all then.
No, I've never really had any issues with that. I think I use it for a specific purpose, which is fairly flat road training anyway. I don't really use it for anything other than that. So I've definitely not had an issue with it when it comes to being wobbly or unstable.
So brilliant. TC's number one. If in a world where the TC didn't exist, what would you be picking as your best daily trainer?
So for this second choice, I picked something that's a little bit more low-key. It's not as fast as the TC, and it's probably not as versatile, but this is the shoe I go for when I just want something reliable and I just want to enjoy a run. And this is the On Cloudflyer.
Okay. So I'm not going to lie, even as a journalist who specialises in running shoes, the On range can confuse me at times. Where does the Cloudflyer kind of come in? What kind of shoe is it, I guess?
So it's a confusing shoe actually, because when I first got this shoe, it's very difficult with On shoes to, you pick one up, you try it on and you think, well, it's the same as the other ones really. But the Cloudflyer was quite a surprising one because it kind of came out of nowhere for me, and we'd heard a bit about some of the more performance focused ones. The Cloudflyer is actually, and I didn't realise this until I'd worn it a few times and I actually read about it, but it's actually like a slight stability shoe. It's not noticeably a stability shoe, so it doesn't feel like there's a lot of rigidity and kind of it doesn't feel hard or like there's a lot of support in it in any way, but it's just a minimal amount of it. And it's not as versatile as FuelCell TC. I don't think I'd be running fast tempo runs in this shoe, but it's just so comfy and so nice. And I think that stability factor just helps it a little bit to be just a little bit more comfortable. So whenever I wear this, I always have a great run. And it just feels like my foot's perfectly in place. And you can run relatively fast in it. It's not designed for speed, but I can definitely train at a higher level in this.
That's it. It's a kind of shoe, you always feel pretty happy pulling on then, I guess. Like you always, it's going to be a nice feeling on the run.
I went out today. I was a bit. I had quite a big run on a half marathon at race pace on Sunday. So last couple of days, my legs have been a little bit weak. So I thought I'll just stick this on today for a 10k, and it's just perfect. I didn't run slow, but it just felt comfortable and supportive the whole way. And it's always an enjoyable shoe to run in.
Nice one. Now, I know actually on both these shoes, I know the TC is a shoe my friends used into the ground, and actually it's held up remarkably well, really durable. Is that the same with you? And is the On Cloudflyer pretty durable as well? How have you seen any kind of wear and tear on them?
Yeah, it's got it's pretty good. I think there's always the issue with On shoes in that you've got the kind of the holes that run all the way across the middle, and then you get to a certain point with them where they start getting a little bit saggy, and you can kind of tell the shoe's losing its kind of strength in the outsole and the midsole section. But I've worn these a lot, and I've definitely, out of all the On shoes I've tried or used quite a bit, this has held up the best really. I've used this shoe for probably must be up to like 150 miles in this now, and these still seem to be holding up pretty well. It's a pretty thick, sturdy shoe in comparison to a lot of On's options. So yeah, it does a good job, and I think it's designed for durability.
That's great. Thanks, Tom. Get out of here. I'm going to bring in someone else.
All right, I'll catch you later.
Okay. All right, next up we have Mike. So Mike, first of all, can you quickly say, what do you look for in a daily trainer?
So I think it's going to be very similar to what the rest of the guys have said. I think for me, daily trainer, something that I can just kind of throw on, is kind of very comfortable, something that I can run kind of quite easy miles in, but if I want to go a little bit quicker, I have the capacity to do that. So that's really kind of the profile of the characteristics I look for in a daily trainer. Awesome.
All right then, let's do it. Let's go straight in. Let's hit us with your first pick. What's your number one daily trainer?
Cool. So my pick at the moment is, and I always get the name wrong on this because it's such a ridiculously long name. So this is the Under Armour Flow Velociti Wind. I have no idea what Flow is, but Flow is clearly working for me because I enjoy running in this shoe a lot. So I think the key things for me, it's quite a light shoe first of all, and I think what I found and why this has kind of worked its way into my rotation is obviously, people watching the channel, I do run a lot in minimal shoes, and this is kind of a shoe that I found that fits quite closely to that profile for me. Obviously not being fully barefoot, but I get the kind of same feeling from this shoe. First of all, very comfortable. I think this warp upper I think works really nicely. The tongue is really nice and soft, so it's a comfortable fit first and foremost. And then I just think kind of the low profile feel of running in this shoe. I can put it on. I know I can go and kind of do some very casual miles in them. But actually, when I feel like I actually just want to hammer it out a little bit more, the shoe lets me do that. And every run I've done, I always feel like I can mix up what I do in this shoe. So I think that's why it kind of stands out for me currently at the moment. That's why it's in my rotation as a daily trainer.
And then Kieran said he doesn't really use any of the connected stats. Is that something you're interested in, or you just like it as a shoe?
Yeah, so actually it's quite interesting. So it's all now that I've got it all set up, and whenever I go out for a run, and I don't really think about that stuff, but I have that as a kind of additional kind of bonus. I think like it's quite nice that I'll always have my watch anyway, but the fact that it's kind of tracking while I'm out there without me even thinking about it, it's just nice to know that you've got something else that's kind of recording the stats. So actually I find it quite useful without feeling that I take it out to track runs, but it's having that additional bit of information and stats that I already get from my watch.
Nice one. All right, so that's another vote for the Under Armour. It's having a good day in this video. Let's move on to your second choice. What comes in as highly commended?
Yeah, so I am going to go with this one. So this is the Saucony Ride 14. So, and actually the 13 could be in my hand here as well, because I think ultimately, apart from a few little kind of upper changes, I think you get the same kind of sensation running in both versions of the shoe. So the first thing for me, it's just a really comfortable shoe to run in first and foremost. And if I'm not going for the Under Armour, this is probably what I would reach for next. I think I like the fact that the cushioning is a little bit of bounce in there, but it's not too aggressive, and it's not kind of wanting you to kind of run a little bit faster than you normally want to. But I think it's just easy. I can go out, I can run casual miles in this. I think I can run longer distances, I can run short distance in it, and I think this kind of serves me really well. I just think as well, outsole was pretty strong as well. I've run on kind of different surfaces with this as well. So if I haven't got the Under Armour, this is probably what I would pick up next if I wasn't running in some barefoot shoes, essentially.
So interesting. So you've actually got the same picks as Kieran, but you've reversed the order. But I think you're picking it out for similar reasons. So that's great.
So you've had all of our top picks and our highly commended, but this section really is about all those other daily trainers, because there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the daily trainer is like a highly competitive space right now. There are a lot of good shoes, Nick. So what's this section going to be?
So it's not going to be an exhaustive list of all the daily trainers out there. Like I say, all brands aim for this spot because it's very important, I guess, money-making spot. And most of them have got decent shoes in this area. So these are shoes we've tested, we rate, they just didn't make our top picks. Basically with the run testers, we always think of our roundups, we want to give you the opinion of what we actually use, and that does mean a bit of repetition and stuff gets missed out. But in here we're going to run through some other really nice shoes very quickly, so you can talk about them in the comments, shout at us, tell us we were wrong, that's fine, but we're not going to, they're just not our top picks.
Yeah, it's fair to say that some of these shoes in this list came very close to being top picks, and I think all these shoes are good shoes.
This is a great shoe that's really amazingly light given how much cushioning it has. That cushioning is New Balance's FuelCell foam, which is very soft and springy, and this shoe is a true all-rounder in our experience, being comfortable enough for use for very slow recovery plods while still having the kind of pop and pace for track sessions or even kind of races and extended runs at speed. The foam can bottom out a little bit, given that it's so soft and there's a big stack without a carbon plate or anything in there, and the ride can be a little bit sloppy as a result, but still this is an all-round fantastic shoe and definitely one of the top daily trainers out there. So Puma's new range includes 3 great shoes that can kind of all work as daily trainers. The first is the Velociti Nitro, which is the heaviest, kind of most cushioned option. This is kind of a good daily trainer for those who like a bit more cushioning, or someone who's doing a lot of big miles during maybe marathon training. It still has the kind of speed for long workouts, but it's not really as poppy as you'll find on the other shoes when it comes to all-out speed sessions, but generally a really nice comfortable shoe that does work for a great range of running. The Liberate Nitro is a really lightweight, fun shoe and very cheap at £90. It's good for those probably who mostly stick to probably up to around 10k in their kind of daily training. If you're hitting more distance than that, then maybe the little extra cushioning that you're going to get on the Velociti Nitro is worth having. And it also has a slight heel rub issue if you are logging kind of runs consistently over an hour long. But this is a really fun, lightweight shoe that actually works for a good range of runs. And then lastly, there's the Deviate Nitro, which has a carbon plate in the midsole, as well as a good stack of Puma's Nitro foam. This is a really great shoe that's undermined by the fact that it's giving a lot of runners heel rub issues, kind of the slightly wafer thin design at the back there. If you don't have that, then this is a really great all-rounder shoe. It's got a lot of pop when it comes to fast running, especially long, hard runs, thanks to that carbon plate, and it's still really comfortable, and you don't really notice any kind of stiffness or harshness when doing easy miles on it. Really could have been a top contender for us, apart from those heel rub problems. So the new Adidas Boston 10 is very different to Boston's of yesteryear. It's got this huge stack of kind of two different foams in there. Adidas's top of the line Lightstroke Pro and a kind of EVA foam underneath. It's got Adidas's energy rods in the midsole to create some kind of snap and extra propulsion to your toe off. It's quite a big, hefty shoe, but it runs lighter than it looks, and it has a stiffer, firmer ride than most of the other shoes we've kind of talked about in this Daily Trainer Roundup. If you do prefer that, a kind of slightly stiffer ride, then it might appeal to you, but it is probably a little bit harsher than most of the shoes here. So the Nike Pegasus 38 is not the Pegasus Turbo. Nike seems to have discontinued that line despite it being really one of our favourite daily trainers all round. But the Pegasus 38 is still a solid shoe, and it's really good value at just over £100. The big React midsole introduced on the Pegasus 37 provides a comfortable ride, and it's very durable, but it has tilted the Pegasus range into a kind of more of an easy shoe bracket for us. The latest editions aren't quite as speedy and responsive as older Pegasus is, but it still can do a job when it comes to things like tempo runs. It's a solid daily trainer option, and it is relatively cheap. This is a shoe with a big stack of soft and bouncy foam, Asics's FF Blast foam. It can be quite a lot of fun to run in, but it also can have some stability issues at times. It can be a little bit of a wobbly ride with the Nova Blast. It's pretty light for its size, and like I say, it's quite a fun run. It's probably tilted more towards kind of easy runs, base training runs, bringing a bit more joy to those rather than all-out speed work. But it's not a slouch of a shoe. It's certainly got a bit of pace in there. It's worth saying the second version has just landed. We haven't tested that yet, but the original Nova Blast is certainly a solid daily trainer option. Brooks Hyperion Temporo is probably a shoe that many will consider a little bit too firm for a daily trainer, but it's really speedy. It's got Brooks' DNA Flash midsole in it, which is the foam that Brooks eventually ended up adopting for its Hyperion Elite carbon plate racing shoe with the second edition of that. It's definitely a firmer ride. It's quite a traditional ride. There's not like a lot of softness and spring here or any kind of carbon plates. It's just a very fast, solid shoe. Again, if you're someone who likes a firmer ride, who isn't really into all these kind of modern technology on shoes, this is one that might work as a really good daily trainer. The Nike Infinity Run 2 is a shoe that tilts a little bit more towards kind of easy running and base training, especially if you're someone who racks up a lot of miles in your runs. It's a really durable shoe with a nice stack of React foam in there, but it's got a very nice rocker, so it's less kind of bouncy and kind of responsive and more a very smooth ride. It also has some stability features, which again is helpful if you're doing lots and lots of miles in your daily training. Probably not a shoe that's really snappy enough that's something that you're going to want to take and do track workouts in all the time, but it's good for tempo runs, and it really can handle a lot of running without kind of ever breaking down. The Hoka One One Mach Rocket X is a shoe that might be a bit of a surprise to have in a daily trainer's video, because it is kind of a carbon racing shoe. It's really billed as that. It's very lightweight. It's got the plate in it. It's got quite an aggressive rocker to kind of get you onto your toes and pushing on. But we found it to be a lot more comfortable than you'd expect. It's obviously got all that speed in it, and it's great for kind of fast workouts, tempo sessions, and racing. But we also found it comfortable enough to use for a kind of decent range of runs, especially if you're not someone who regularly goes very long in your training. So yeah, it is one option you might want to consider, kind of in a similar bracket to something like the Endorphin Speed, a really fast daily trainer option. The Endorphin Speed probably is a little bit more comfortable. Brooks Launch 8 is a shoe that's very easy to overlook, but it's really good value at £100, nearly always in sales. It doesn't have fancy foams, carbon plates, any of the kind of bells and whistles you're getting in a lot of daily trainers these days, but it's a really reliable option. It's got a very traditional, simple ride. It's quite reasonably firm and snappy and responsive, but there's definitely enough cushioning there for your easy runs as well. It's just a nice all-round option, one that maybe shouldn't be overlooked if you're looking for a bargain when it comes to your daily trainer. So that's it, guys. That is our guide to the best daily trainers available right now. There'll be a new one released next week that we won't have mentioned, but oh well, what can you do? Thanks very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, ring the little bell so you get notified when we launch new videos. Other than that, I think it's time to say goodbye, Kieran.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.